This question is specifically for Mr. Little. We've spoken of the 10th Amendment tonight. I'd like to move to the 2nd. The Attorney General's office in Rhode Island is unique and is the only state-level officer who can issue concealed weapons permits, and also would be defending challenges to any changes made to our laws. So I'd like to know your opinion on concealed carry and the Second Amendment and the 22nd article of the Rhode Island Constitution.
Well, I'm going to first out acknowledge and tell you truthfully, I'm not as familiar with the Second Amendment issues as you are framing right now. I'm going to tell you that right now. I will tell you that in terms of avocation in sports, I live in South County. People hunt on my property, and I invite them to hunt on my property. So gun carrying, and I support the local gun shop in Wakefield with my own purchases. But in terms of the role of the Attorney General, I would tell you that, quite honestly, as I stand here tonight, it's an issue that I would want to get the input from the local police departments and come up with a policy. And I'm not going to tell you something right now that is going to make you necessarily be happy with what I'm saying, but that's the answer to that.
I am a strong supporter of the Second Amendment. I also live in South Kingstown, ironically, so it appears that we have two South County residents up here in Burrillville, the other end of the state. And I probably also support the same shop that you do as well with my own purchases. But I believe strongly in the Second Amendment. We have a serious problem here in Rhode Island in that we have both the police chiefs can issue permits. A number of people have come to me throughout this campaign as I've been crisscrossing the state and have discussed the fact that police departments, local ones, aren't even handing any applications out to individuals that are going to those police departments to get them. The police departments have what's called a shall issue. In other words, essentially, if you go in, you apply, you meet the requirements, they shall issue a permit. The Attorney General office is a little bit different. You apply, the Attorney General has a set of requirements that they have to follow to issue a permit. Quite frankly, my view is that the people of Rhode Island have a right to protect themselves. They have a right to, especially given the fact that, quite frankly, we can't rely on government all the time to do it. I do firmly agree that obviously it's important to have the input of law enforcement on this issue, but it's also important to listen to the other people and the others who have an interest in this, which include people, for example, that are involved in sports, that are involved in firearms, that have an interest in carrying for self-protection, and I'm not going to close them out of the process and just simply go to law enforcement alone. There's no question giving out a carry permit is a very serious issue, and there's no question that I will exercise my discretion carefully. However, I'm not going to deny law-abiding citizens the right to carry so long as they state an appropriate law.
This will be our last question. In the back.
With Rhode Island's history of corruption, what do you intend on doing with political corruption in the state? We've noticed every time there has been people that have been prosecuted for corruption, it always comes from the feds. It never comes from the state. And the state's much closer and obviously would know more about it than the feds, but it's curious that it never gets prosecuted by our attorney generals. What do you intend to do with that? Because we know there's plenty of corruption in the government here that should be prosecuted, but isn't.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, I think we provided too long on the reporters like Jim Hummel and Tim White and Jim Tarracani and those reporters to be the only ones shining a light on corruption in this state. There's a very good reason why people are just going to them and that they're not going to the Attorney General office. And I think it's the fact that the office has become over-politicized. People aren't going to go to the people and report others that they think are too close to the Attorney General. I will have a public corruption unit, and I will staff it with seasoned prosecutors, a 24-hour tip line for citizens to call in. And I will make this promise to you as a Rhode Islander and as someone who deeply is concerned about taking on this issue for the economic development reasons that exist, as well as so that you can have faith in your government. And that is this: I will follow the trail of corruption no matter where it leads, whether it's a high elected official or a person with a no-show job, whether it's a Republican, an independent, or a moderate, or a Democrat. No one will be above the law when I'm Attorney General. So we'll follow those tips. We'll make sure that the people of Rhode Island have confidence in the job that we do, and eventually they will come to the Attorney General office with those complaints and not rely upon having to go to just the press alone. It's about being proactive. It's about sending a message that there's an independent person in the Attorney General office that isn't owned and doesn't owe anybody. And that's who I am. And I will not be afraid to take on the powerful interests in this state, because frankly, if we don't do it now, we're not going to have a state that's worth keeping 15 years from now, or maybe not even 5 years from now. It is too much. It costs us too deeply. I talked about the ripple effect of the corruption in Central Falls, and quite frankly, has a chilling effect on our ability to attract businesses. They're just not going to come here when they know that they have to pay to play. There are too many other places for them to go, and that means jobs. That means jobs, both now when we need them the most, and also for the future. This state needs to attract businesses. They're not coming here with high tax rates. They're not coming here with an education system that is failing. They're not going to come here if we don't tackle the issues of corruption.
You won't find really any difference in what I would say. I think one of the things that's most damning about the Hummel reports are the people who were afraid to make a call to the Attorney General's office because of the interrelationship between the Attorney General and the mayor and his staff. And that's one of the key things that has to be changed in the first instance, is so that citizens aren't afraid to contact the Attorney General. I made it very clear that one of my pledges would be that everyone would have a confidential access to me to basically report any type of misuse of crime, and that would be very important. I'm not going to have the political connections. I don't have the political connections. I've only been in political office a couple of times in life, and they were 15 years ago. So I'm going to be having that degree of independence, because you've got to have the confidence in the Attorney General in the first place. Indeed, I agree completely that the staff is there, the resources are there in the Attorney General's office to reposition them with some better support, some basic auditors for doing forensic auditing to go after that type of issue, to bring in the support in terms of integrating law enforcement, to utilize the FBI resources, to utilize our state police more effectively, to be going after all of the public corruption that's out there. I'm going to go back beyond public corruption, because there's a whole array of white-collar crime that I also believe is not being touched as well. And clearly, if we don't do it, we can't have any confidence in our government. Nobody really would have any confidence. And who knows exactly how much money we're losing in this process of corruption. How much money did we lose at the Rhode Island Resource Recovery Facility, which wasn't even investigated? And there was plenty of time to do the investigation. The U.S. Attorney's Office did notify the Attorney General's office and provide information, and nothing was done. And why wasn't it done? Well, you know why it wasn't done. Mm-hmm. So the first part of this is you can't go out if you're running for the Attorney General and say, I'm going to indict everybody first and investigate later. But certainly when you have the information, when the smell exists, you have a duty to investigate, and investigate promptly. Thank you.
That concludes the second session. Once again, we'll start the third one right away, so please keep your seats.